Okay, let's take a few minutes here and discuss how you're going to be graded for this assessment. For this assessment, there will be two pieces and two different rubrics really associated with it. The first one that we're going to have is your content rubric. Basically, this is saying what is it information-wise that you need to include. In this situation, we're going to be looking at why would people accept being serfs. In other words, why would people accept having really poor living conditions, as we've talked about with serfs. In order for you to meet this criteria and to gain the maximum amount of points, which is 15 points, we're going to look at the three different criteria that you need to include and all the details that you also need to have with it so you can get the most points possible. First off, let's talk about the way the grading scale works here. For each criteria that we have, and the first one we're going to look at is background on Maslow's hierarchy, you can earn a 5, a 4, a 3, or a 0, and that seems like a big drop-off. Why is that? Well, the point is, if you're not getting at least a 3 out of 5, that means you don't understand this well enough for me to allow you to move on and continue on. We need to make sure that we clear this up right away. So anything that falls into the 0 category right here, just so you know, is going to result in you having to redo that section. I want to make that clear right off the bat. Now, let's look at Maslow's hierarchy. We've discussed Maslow's hierarchy. That's something that you've learned about and you should be good with. There are two different things I need you to focus on with this. First off, explain how it works. How does Maslow's hierarchy work? You can talk about the different levels, what is at each specific level. That'll kind of be a part of the different stages. What is it really measuring? What's the point of Maslow's hierarchy? Those are things you would include in this section. In order to earn a 5 out of 5 to get that expert ranking, the best rating possible, you need to have multiple strong and accurate supporting details, You need to have a clear connection to the essential question. So if we're going to discuss Maslow's hierarchy, and really the point of this is to focus on serfs, you need to make sure you make some connection back to why would people accept being serfs. And you can do that by explaining a little bit about Maslow's hierarchy. You also need to have multiple references. There need to be multiple locations in this project in which you're saying specifically this information was found from blank. That's an important thing that we're going to work on as we go through this. If you're off a little bit, you would earn a 4. The specific thing that you would really be missing here are the number of references. That's really the biggest difference between a 4 and a 5. As soon as you start losing connection to the essential question, like let's say you have a lot of information about Maslow's hierarchy, but it just doesn't really relate back to the whole idea of why would people accept being a serf, then you would still be proficient in earning a 3 out of 5. However, that obviously isn't the score that most of you are going to want. Next, so we have Maslow's hierarchy as first. Next is changes in Rome. For this, you need to talk about the positives in Rome, what caused it to fall apart, and then what were the negatives with it falling apart. What happened there? We can really find a good transition here between Maslow's hierarchy and changes in Rome because, well, if you look at Rome when it's thriving and then Rome when it fails, there are some pretty big differences. I'm going to clear the screen one more time here just so that we don't have too much junk on the screen. But you get the main idea here. Same exact criteria here where you need to have multiple references, a clear connection, and multiple strong and accurate supporting details. And finally, feudalism and serfdom. So, what is feudalism in general? That whole social system thingy, what is that all about? Why did it exist? What happened that caused it to exist? And what was it like for a serf? What made it bad, really? I think I can say that pretty easily, because if you're at this point, then you're going to know that it was bad. So make sure that you have all this stuff well connected, well transitioned, and all those good things. And this should be a pretty easy 15 points, given that you've already demonstrated that you understand these different topics. The key is going to be using references and really proving, hey, this fact that I'm using, it comes from somewhere, and I'm going to give them credit. That way we know it's true. And the other thing is going to be that clear connection. So the idea that you are focusing back on this, and that is, why would people accept being a serfs, or being a serf and for an individual person? Make sure you do make that connection. Now, the second portion of this is on creative representations. And for the creative representation rubric, the way that you will be graded is as follows. There are 3 different levels of scores that you can earn. We have our mastery, which is 3, proficient, which is 2, and unsatisfactory, which is 0. Again, if you get an unsatisfactory, you need to redo whatever it is that you are doing. Proficient is still a passing grade. Mastery is obviously what I would like to, and what we want to see everybody working towards. So, what are the criteria? The first one we have is called originality. In other words, are you being creative? And in terms of being creative here, I want you to do something that's unique on your own. So, the different criteria for earning a 3 out of 3 provides a unique expression of material. So you're doing it in a way that is whatever. And by the way, when I say creative representation, I didn't call this a movie project. We didn't call this a poster project. You can do this however you would like. If you are really skilled at art and you love art and you have a really creative, clever way that you can make this all mix together, that would be awesome. The goal of this is for you to demonstrate your learning in a creative manner. If you really enjoy writing, then you can write. If you want to make this writing into some sort of a creative like letter to somebody, and that's something that you're really good at, you can do that. If you want to make a movie, you can make a movie. If you want to make a big chart and you can do this really effectively on a chart, then that's okay too. We just want you to be creative here. So, a unique expression, you showing it in a way that you think is a unique way to do it. And it can't be a carbon copy. It's not about going on the internet and saying, okay, show me what a surf looked like, and then I'm just going to copy that surf. That's not really unique. It's about doing something that's on your own. Now, given that it's going to be a little bit tricky for everybody to come up with their own thing, because some of us are a little bit more creatively inclined than others, if you have something that is very similar to other works, you can still earn a 2 out of 3, so it'll only be a 1-point loss. But that would just basically be if I'm looking at it and it seems pretty clear that it could be enhanced with more creativity. It's a little bit subjective. I know that's not what people want to hear. In other words, it's not as clear-cut as we might like it to be, but nonetheless, be creative, have a little bit of fun with this. Next, did you stay on topic? That's really important here. We want to make sure that all aspects of the project are connected to the goals of the project. It's very easy when you get into doing creative representations to really deviate and just focus on something totally different. Now, if you have a creative representation, it might get a little bit off topic, and that's okay. But the point is, we don't want it to be that you're talking about a man going to the moon whenever your focus is supposed to be here on feudalism and the fall of Rome. Those don't really connect real well. So as long as you can find a clear way that you can keep yourself focused and you can really prove that this is on topic, then that's completely fine. It's kind of like in the first project when we said you had to keep a clear connection to the essential question. It's that same idea here. Third, presentation quality. Now, for most of you, you're going to have to give a real quick presentation. Nothing that is necessarily like a 5-minute formal speech. However, you're going to have to clearly explain what your project is. So you might take 30 seconds to a minute, stand up, it could be in front of the class or it could be one-on-one, explain what your project is. Now, there are a couple things that you have to make sure you're aware of here. Your work needs to be understandable, and your speaking needs to be clear with a formal presentation or similar format. So you're going to have to present it in some fashion. Make sure that you're ready because we want to make sure that your speaking is appropriate, in other words, appropriate quality, and that it's well planned and organized. If you stand up there and start rambling and you don't really have much organization, you will lose points in this section. So in terms of your speaking and your presentation, it will be about this way you speak, your organization, and also being clear in what you're saying. That clarity is extremely, extremely important. Fourth, we have overall quality. In other words, is this a high-quality project? Is there attention to detail? Is it clear that you took pride in the work that you completed? Was there editing and revising in the process? This could be a lot of different things. If you do decide to do some sort of a paper and you have a tremendous amount of misspellings, then it's very clear that there is not attention to detail. So that wouldn't really be a high-quality grade here. If you have a movie and your movie's 30 seconds long and choppy and it doesn't seem well edited and you can't really hear what anybody's saying, that's not high quality, and that's going to be something that you have to redo. It's really about here, are you putting forth the effort? Are you really trying to produce something that's high quality? That's what we're looking for in this section. And finally, appropriate references. Did you give credit to the references that were used for you along the way? Did you give it in a formal citation? For the first project, it's not going to be so imperative that you have the really formal citation like you would get from MLA. However, as we progress, it's going to be more and more and more important to get better with that. So if you want to start learning it now, MLA citations are things that you do want to work with. but nonetheless. And we also want to give them credit where credit is due, not just at the very end. So if you do a movie, give credit throughout. If you have a paper, parentheses and say where you got it from as you go through the works. Nonetheless, this is out of 15. So the goal for you should be to get a 15 out of 15. So you can easily watch this video, check back afterwards and say, okay, you know what, I do have 3s on all these, so I'm good to go. Or, you know what, I have a 2 in these 2 sections, I need to fix them up before I turn it in. Okay? Make sure that you do high quality work here, because that's what this is all about. High quality and creative. Good luck.